Hi, I'm Simon McCallum. I'm a lecturer in software engineering, and specifically game development, here at Herenga, Waka, Victoria, University of Wellington. Today I will be talking about engineering engagement. Now, one of the things that we do here is that we look at how we can create computer programs for people. So the work that I do as research and the teaching I do connects to human beings. And so it's that human factors end of computer science. So it's not just about the technology, it's actually about how that technology is used by people. And if people want to use your product, then your product will be successful. And so how do you get them to engage? Now, as part of our teaching and our research, I teach our user experience engineering course. And that course is about how we make both mobile products and web-based products, but also physical products, and how we create those to reinforce what the user wants to do. Right? So now part of that process is that we start by thinking about who is going to use our products. Who are our user? We try and empathize with them, understand what tasks they're trying to achieve. Now from there, we start saying, okay, how do I define the problem? Because once I've got my mindset, okay, those are our users, that's what they're trying to achieve. How do I then wrap that into a definition of the actual task that we're trying to solve? Then we do a creative process where we try and think about all the potential ideas and all the great interfaces you could create, or if we're teaching about games, the kinds of games that you can create. Then, because we're programmers and we're computer scientists, we can create prototypes. And that's where we use rapid prototyping tools, Adobe XD or Unreal or Unity. We use initial tools that help us build the first version of an application or a website. From there, we go on to the testing. So we'll talk about how you test programs, how you work with people to understand what they find engaging, to understand how they respond to the technology. And that's because people don't really understand why they like and dislike things. They're not great at telling you, oh, it's that thing that I dislike, right? They're kind of okay at saying, oh, I don't like that, I do like that. But the skill is in creativity is understanding why they don't like that thing and how to create the thing they do like. So that's where we start testing with people and we start iterating with them. Now, that's in our user experience courses. In our game development courses, which I'm sure some of you are very interested in games, and probably play a lot of games yourself, what we do is we look at how games are the purest form of engagement. Because most of the time when you're using an app or you're using a website, you have an objective, right? You want to buy a train ticket or you want to go and buy a DVD. You're trying to achieve a functional goal, right? So the interface has to kind of get out of your way, right? Because you know what you want to achieve, and so long as you kind of don't notice the interface, as long as it kind of runs away and it does what it needs to do, and you just get the product, you're cool with that. However, for a game, you are there for the experience. It's the only reason you turn up, right? If I press a button and get a win signal, right, it's kind of, well, it's not a good game. I've won. It doesn't mean anything to win, right? It's the challenge. It's the interface itself. So as part of the teaching of game development, we look at the psychology of motivation and trying to understand the purity of engagement that you get when you're looking at games. And so as part of that, we'll be talking about self-determination theory, which looks at agency, competence, and relatedness as psychological needs. And so these are needs that people have in their lives. And then we can look at how they use games to fulfill those needs and how we as designers and developers can meet those psychological needs. Now, to achieve that, there's lots and lots of work, right? So you've got to understand a lot of things about how you balance games, and one of the things I do as a lecturer at the university is that I also look at how I can engage my students, how I can use the principles that I teach in game development in my own education, how I can make sure you as students feel engaged with my subjects. Right? And so that's looking at how I give you more agency in what you choose to do, how we look at making sure that you feel that when you succeed, it is you that are succeeding. Right? It's not just a random thing that just happened, that you can see the things you did well and they led to success. Right? So that kind of motivational approach is what we do when we're teaching. We'll look at how you can use all of these techniques, not just in games or in interfaces, but in all the aspects of your lives. How you can look at how systems manipulate you to behave in certain ways. And by recognizing that, you can see the hidden messages and you can see the forces that are trying to manipulate you into behaving certain ways. And also, potentially, how you can take control of your life and of your learning.